Of the many Asian-based airlines, Philippine Airlines is all too familiar with both the good and bad of the aviation industry. After all, it is Asia's oldest airline. However, like many of its global counterparts, it is also struggling amid the COVID-19 pandemic, which not only has derailed its plans, but put the airline in a crisis situation that it's all too familiar with. In its own bid for survival amid the COVID-19 pandemic situation, we are getting news from local and international media outlets of restructuring plans to help keep the airline operational for the future. These discussions and reports were started after a Nikkei Asian Review report in late November regarding plans for Philippine Airlines to implement cost-cutting measures and also to enter court protection from creditors, as the airline is facing a growing debt problem. Along with the possibility of entering court protection, the Manila-based airline is planning to raise around $505 million for post-restructuring liability requirements, cut over one-third or around 35% of its workforce, and return 20 leased aircraft worth around $1 billion in costs. Regarding the $505 million expected to be raised, just over half, or a total of around $255 million, would be raised by Philippine Airlines controlling shareholder Lucio Tan, while much of the other half would come from government and private funding. With these measures, Philippine Airlines hopes to reduce its debt, currently reported at $5 billion to around $3 billion. Much of the debts owed to creditors can be attributed to the leased aircraft, which has helped facilitate the airline's growth in years prior. Of the 99 aircraft on Philippine Airlines' fleet, around half of the fleet is leased, with the airline dealing with 19 leasers. Along with the current financial problems, the airline has dealt with the shutdown of the Philippine airspace between April and June, which the airline very much did not operate flights with the exception of repatriation and cargo flights. The travel restrictions in place, Philippine Airlines reported a loss of around 29 billion Philippine pesos during the first 3 quarters of the year, 3 times more compared to the year prior. Adding to this has been the refund request from grounded travelers, which amounts to around 15 billion Philippine pesos. With the prospects of a court-protected restructuring looming, it's not the first time the airline will enter such situation, nor does it spell impending doom of the airline. When we look back to the history of Philippine Airlines within the last few decades, in 1999, the airline entered court proceedings during that financial crisis for the airline, and over the years, the airline has proven itself to be a resilient one. For the debt restructuring, it has been reported that it would enter U.S. court proceedings as much of the lessors are based in the U.S., which translates to Chapter 11 bankruptcy proceedings in the U.S. courts. This would likely be along with entering court proceedings in the Philippines to deal with local creditors. To get out of this situation, the Philippine Airlines is looking to seeking any sorts of assistance, and this would definitely include the Philippine government, as the Manila-based airline is probably one of the most important pieces of the Philippine aviation industry. Regarding the degree of government help, the Philippine Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez III has previously stated and recognized Philippine Airlines seeking assistance, though he has stated in the past that the private sector should take the lead in this matter, along with providing financial assistance for the other Philippine-based carriers. In a report from the Philippine Star on October 8, Dominguez was quoted saying, "Let me point out that whatever assistance we have or we are going to provide will be part of only the entire process. The private sector banks have to cough up the majority of their assistance." He further added that, quote, "We will rely on the participation of private banks and we will support their efforts to revive the industry." In the meantime, for Philippine Airlines, it is still business as usual, as the airline has since resumed flights. According to reports, the airline is currently serving 47 destinations, including 25 domestic and 22 international destinations, which is just less than half of the 100 destinations served prior to the pandemic. With restrictions on air travel still in, it has lost out to the summer travel season, and it seems like it will be doing so again for the winter and Christmas season, as many overseas Filipinos will likely not make the trip home this year. Though I will say, in lieu of any financial assistance from the Philippine government, the policymakers may likely be more in favor of easing more travel restrictions to help the Philippine aviation industry, without having to inject some large amounts of cash from government coffers. This would definitely allow Philippine Airlines to recover, adding more flights along the way, though it's still likely an uneasy situation for the employees and members of the Philippine Airlines family, who themselves have witnessed over 300 employees being laid off earlier in February of 2020, and now it seems like the airline is facing an impending cut of around 35% of its 7,000-member workforce. As the year 2020 closes for Philippine Airlines, 2021 is shaping to be a year of tough choices as it looks to recover from one of its biggest crises in its history. I definitely hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. This has been Flights in Asia, highlighting the news and updates from the aviation and travel scene in the Asia Pacific. Thanks again for watching and have a great day.